Alright, today we're picking back up. We've got this bike turned around on the lift, and we are actually going to begin modifying some parts. So it's touching back on that point that we made in the last video regarding, as Tex put it, buying expensive components and then putting holes in them. So we're going to be mocking up and coming up with a solution for the pot mount. So fortunately, this fork has a place on the lower, solves the mounting issue down there. But we're going to have to modify the triple clamp to cleanly come up with a solution for the top. You can use clamps and stuff like that, but if there's an opportunity to do it in a tidy way, we always like to go that route, so there's just that much less stuff you have to take off the fork and keep up with later. So the first step is for sure going to be to remove the fork so we don't touch that or scratch it or anything while we're modifying the clamp. Okay, so we've got the bottom of the pot mounted, and then now Tex is basically locating the top portion, and what he's doing is, you know, you have to make sure this thing is going to be completely straight throughout the course of the travel, because it's really easy to damage these sensors if something's crooked. So he's basically just going to move this fore and aft until it's essentially going to be straight from all directions. We'll just kind of eyeball this. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but it needs to be as close as possible. And so we take some measurements and we look at this just to make sure that from every angle it looks like there's not a gap that grows. You can see it changes as you move around the fork. And then what we're going to basically do is we have these various offset pot mounts, and we're going to essentially just drill and tap a hole in the lower clamp and mount this there. It's going to make it really easy to get this perfect. Alright, we've now got this spot marked, so this is where our mount's going to go, and we're just going to start. We think that the shortest one we have is going to be the closest, so we're just going to use that one at first. And by the way, we hope you guys are getting some better audio based on a lot of feedback. We have invested in a microphone that's multi-directional, so hopefully as we are moving the camera around, everything sounds a little more level for you. So now we begin the process of creating this mount.
Nice thing about adjustable triples.
Take the bottom one off only.
Just take the bottom off. No disturbing the bearings.
So now we've got this clamp laid out, and Tex is just going to begin modifying this thing.
Try to go straight across the circle. Actually, let me do this so it'll sit flat that way.
Could use soft jaws in that. Deal. Now we just have to tap that and then deburr the clamping surface on the inside, and should be good to go.
I'm backing the tap up to break the chip. That'll reduces the possibility of breaking a tap, which is a very distinct possibility with one as small as this one.
Okay, so we're out of the dirty room, as we call it now, and Tex is currently deburring that lower clamp. And I thought this would be a good time to touch on the importance of using those suspension travel sensors and why we're using them here, and really why we essentially insist on using them on pretty much any project of this caliber, or even most super stock bikes that are, if you intend to be competitive, you got to have this stuff. So we often talk to people about that, and they'll go, "Oh yeah, that way you know how much travel you're using." I mean, that's technically true, yes, but it's more important that we know exactly how much travel we're using at every given point around the racetrack. That's why, putting like a zip tie or using a stroke indicator on your fork, it's helpful because you can see if you're going to the bottom or not, but it really just tells you what is happening in one instant during the course of several laps. So it's helpful, but it's definitely not going to be anywhere near as valuable as actually having detailed suspension data, because we're able to use that to not only see how much travel you're using, obviously, but more importantly, what the bike's doing mid-corner and why it may not be turning the way that the rider wants it to, why you may not have as much grip as you want, really any number of things. So it's critical. It's one of the first things that, like, we'll use that to get the balance and the movement of the bike right before we start touching any kind of clickers like compression and rebound and things like that, just because you want to make sure first and foremost that the springs and balance of the bike are correct, and those suspension potentiometers are the only way to do that correctly. All right, now Tex is reinstalling these forks, and you can see we've got everything set up here. This is the mount installed in the fork, and then we've actually got the pot mocked up, and it looks nice and straight. So now we're just gonna have to, check out this, we've got this in place. We're obviously unable to do the shock absorber just yet. We're still waiting on that to come in from Sweden. Should be in pretty soon, so for now this bike is a hardtail, and we'll deal with that once it all comes in. Bring you some updates here. We're coming along nicely. We did finish this Suter clutch install, and as you can see, there's one of these bolt holes is open, and that's because to set the stack height and assemble this correctly, the tool actually goes into one of those holes, so that's why that's missing. One thing that we did learn while doing this install is that the BMW clutch assembly is not available in individual plates. So in this instance, we had to purchase an additional steel plate, because the design of the OE clutch is slightly different from the Suter, in that the final clutch plate in the assembly is much larger than the others. So as a result, didn't have the correct assembly here. The problem is with BMW, you can't purchase individual plates. You have to purchase an entire kit, and the retail price of that kit was over $600. So something to keep in mind if you're going to install one of these. You may encounter that, and something to be prepared for. So moving on, we've also completed the caliper installation here. This is a set of Brembo Evo billet monoblocks. These are World Superbike specification calipers, exactly the same units that are being used by every top team in WSBK, and those have titanium pistons and a really lightweight billet one-piece body. We also have our Gale Speed VRE billet master cylinder, which is a ratio adjust master cylinder, completely billet, solid piece, titanium pivot pin, and it has an adjustable, with the ratio being adjustable, it's actually adjustable in several clicks or increments in between each ratio. So this is actually a 17 millimeter master that we're using to give the rider a bit more feel, and it's a 16 to 18 ratio. So versus just having to choose between 16 or 18 the way you would see on like a Brembo RCS, you can actually choose several increments in between each one to get the perfect feel that you're looking for. And over here we have our IMA TBS or thumb brake system. This is a piece that we get from Italy that allows you to have a really nice feeling thumb brake setup, and it allows the retention of the rear foot brake as well, which is here. And again, this is also an IMA rear master cylinder. It's actually the same unit that's used at the thumb, but we use a little bit different hardware to make it integrate with the pedal. The last component of that is going to be our brake lines, which just got finished up and shipped today. So those are going to be here probably Monday or Tuesday of next week. And those are going to be full custom. We had to measure everything. They're going to integrate the thumb brake, obviously the front and the rear brake, and they're going to have several Stably quick disconnects. So we'll have that pretty soon. Lastly, Tex finished up modifying this front fender that we mentioned previously. So it's a little less aggressive looking, I guess you could say. And it's going to allow access to the pinch bolts before it actually covered that area up. So looks a little tidier and not so extreme. right, so we've actually got a lot of progress here since the last clip. We have received our brake lines, and we've gone ahead and mocked these up. The system's not bled or anything yet, but you can see how we're going to run everything, and it's come along really nicely. Here is the front setup, and as you can see, we are opting for a design that goes directly into the caliper and utilizes a dry brake fitting at each caliper. We'll show you the other side here. There we go. And for the rear, we have a dry brake fitting on the line that feeds into the thumb brake master cylinder. And then of course the line from there is going to come through here. Another dry brake fitting at the rear caliper. The reason for these dry brakes is it makes it really easy to service the calipers, or if they need to be removed in a hurry without having to bleed the system, it facilitates that. Also, something we haven't touched on, we have our Hitch Evolution full system fully installed, and you can see everything here. It's really, I feel, super tidy looking exhaust, and haven't really touched on that yet, but it looks fantastic. Obviously, this is a full titanium system, and I can't wait to hear this thing rip. There's our wideband sensors. A few other small things. We do have our Alliant battery. We're using the smallest Alliant battery that we stock, and the reason for this, we wouldn't normally do that on a big bike like this, but we're using this quick disconnect Anderson connector over here, and we're gonna have like a jumper option essentially, so this guy's never gonna have to worry about any issues. This is basically just a battery to keep the bike running. It's not gonna really be used for starting or data downloads or anything of that nature. So you can see that's all mounted in there with a little bracket, and yeah, that's probably gonna do it for this video. You can see we've got a lot of stuff plumbed. There's our thumb brake. Everything's looking pretty good. We do have some titanium installed now. We got part of our titanium shipment in. We're still missing the bulk of it, but you can see we've replaced all these fasteners with tie on the rear sets and other places along the motorcycle. We do also have the master cylinder. We've gone ahead and updated that with a lightweight lever, low drag as well, with a titanium bolt there. So I think that's going to do it for this one. We've covered quite a bit, and this is going to be a long video, but hope you like what you see, and can't wait to bring you the next one. Thanks for watching.